Good afternoon, Jimmy. How are you feeling today?
I'm good. Thank you very much, Yumin.
Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Investing Bro Market Talk episode 16. So this is where I'll meet up Jimmy either Sunday. I know we skipped some Sunday. Yes, we've been lazy, but yes, we are back just before the Chinese New Year to talk about some of the latest happening in the stock market or the investment market over the past 1 or 2 weeks. So, Jimmy, no, there's no specific headline, but there is something that I suppose caused some discomfort to quite some investor here. The US market has corrected quite sharply. In fact, I would say over the 2 months. Let me just pull up my chart to get the exact figure. Yes, sir. So this is the chart that we have been talking about. So this is NASDAQ. And I would say that ever since maybe December, okay, or in fact, maybe at the start of the year, as you can see, the Nasdaq has came down quite sharply from the peak of about 15,000, and now we are looking at 13,000 plus. So, US market corrected. Tell us what should we be doing next? Jimmy, the stage is yours. Thank you so much.
Okay, so Yumin, good afternoon and good afternoon to everyone. There's basically a concern, of course, because starting from the year 2022, the US market has been performing quite disappointedly. And as you have just shown to the people, that Nasdaq has actually sort of like plunged all the way from 15,000 to currently about 13,000 over. So let me and of course that raised a lot of concern about people, whether the market is going to melt down, is going to correct and that sort of thing. So I'm going to take the opportunity here today and just to sort of like share my opinions. So let me quickly just show my screen over here, that what I prepared for you all today in these sessions. Number one is that I would like to go through the market, whether is it a collapse or is it a corrections, and how do we actually spot a collapse or corrections in the US market. And I'm going to do that in a minute or so. Then the second one is, of course, the main, hot stocks that we all have been chasing the whole of the 2020 and 2021 is a Tesla. The share price has dropped, significantly from 1,001 to 800 at one point of time, $800 despite the fact that they have delivered good results. So what causes that? And finally, I'm going to touch on is that at this point of time, what we can do, how we can actually take advantage of these situations and make sure that we have make profit out of this. So I think number one, the more important thing, the concern here is that, is this a collapse or corrections? What actually causes it? Now, I think you all would read the headlines is that I think, not in fact, I think the whole market right now is in a state of uncertainty, and it is the uncertainty that causes market to be very volatile. What causes the uncertainty? Number one is the Fed to raise interest rate. Now that is basically certain, right? But what is uncertain is that the number of increment going to do. So some say, 3 times in 2022, some say 4 times in 2022. And in fact, just last week, some analysis was saying that, they're going to do 6 times in 2022. So all these causes a lot of uncertainty and speculations and things like that. And number two, even with the increase in interest rate, there's a dispute as well, because they're saying that, the interest rate should increase by 50 basis point by March. And that's actually quite a huge one, right? 50 basis point. But some say, no, we're going to do 25. So you can see that there's quite a lot of school of thoughts, and there's a lot of diverse opinion, and these basically contribute to the uncertainty. I think that is the main thing. Now, the second part which contribute to the volatility is you all heard about the conflicts between Ukraine and Russia. Then, of course, the NATO is coming in, together, which is basically pioneered by the Biden government. And that basically create, a US, Russia plus Ukraine kind of situations that right now it become a geopolitical issues, and that basically contribute part of the volatility as well. And undeniable, the Wall Street people, the investors don't like uncertainty, and that's basically we are seeing that the US market itself, for the time being, we are not expecting an immediate rebound. If you see any rebound, in the short term, you should see it as it's just a short-term rebound, and for a long time, or maybe perhaps a few months times, you will still see that the index will be still moving, with a huge volatility. So that's basically my opinion. Now, to show you all what is going on, whether is it the market going to be collapse or corrections, let me just quickly show you using technical analysis.
Okay, thank you.
So the first one I'm going to show you all is the Dow Jones, all right, Dow Jones. And if I were to plot this from all-time high, and I bring it all the way down to the lowest point it hit this month, the number is a little bit small, but you can see that it is down 10%. And as of last Friday, it is down 5.97, it's approximately about 6%. Now, in the technical analysis world, anything that's fall within the range of less than 20%, it is still considered as a corrections. So in other words, Dow Jones are still on an uptrend. So whatever it is right now as of Friday, it is still maintained on a bullish trend, all right? Bullish trend. There's nothing big deal on Dow Jones, all right? Now then we look at the next one, which is the S&P 500 very quickly. Now, pardon my chart, it's a bit complex over here, is because I've been watching this very, very closely every day. Same thing, if I were to do an all-time high, I do it all the way down to the lowest point for this month. You can see that the S&P fell 12.40%, and as of Friday, it fell 8.72%. 8.72%. So, which means that the S&P 500 is still in the bullish trend. It deems as a corrections, all right, as a corrections. Now, final one, we're going to look at NASDAQ. Now, as NASDAQ has a big fall is because they are all the growth stocks, right? And the valuations on the growth stock itself depends on the growth itself. So NASDAQ is sort of like being affected mostly because of all these Feds going to raise interest rate. So at one point of time, it actually hit 19.06% all the way low before it was very marginal before it hits the 20% line that we say that NASDAQ is going to be at the bearish zone. But since then, the market has sort of like rebound back to minus 15%. So again, it is still in the correction zone. All right, it is still in correction zones. So in my opinion is that for NASDAQ is still very, very volatile. At any point of time, it may go, less than that, more than 20% corrections. And we are looking at the range that if that will happen, NASDAQ will fall through the 13,000 range. And that's where, investor will probably have to adopt a different strategy from this point. So right now we will continue our strategy, but anything that's below 30,000, and especially if it drop through 12,700, then we will have a complete different strategy, and we will have a complete different discussion. But as for now, it is still in the correction zone. All right. So with that, we would I hope that will actually give you all an idea of how the 3 US market has been performed, and so that you all know that whether is it already collapsed or it is still in correction. So right now, it is still in a correction zone. The more interesting thing, I think, is the most hottest topic, for the year 2020 and 2021 is Tesla, right? So Tesla has been going through a big swing, from $500 run all the way to $1,002, and people make billions of dollars, as investors. So the stocks and people were queuing up to buy, at 1,001, 1,002. People were still, buying it and saying that you go to $1,005, $2,000, and that sort of things. Now, within a span of less than 3 weeks, Tesla actually dropped down to the lowest 805, and down it closed at 843. Now, and that results and this drop is actually on the day when the earnings were reported. In fact, the earnings report was so good, it beats analysts' estimates. So the question here is that, and we say, hey, US stocks, when the earnings beats the estimate, usually it goes up, right? Now, why it actually comes down? That's a good question, sir. Basically, if I were to use my own words, it is called Mr. Market. So if the market can be theory in a way whereby it has a formula, then I think a lot of people is going to be very rich. Unfortunately, that speaks a lot about the market itself. But then I think from the logical way to explain to this situation is that during the earnings, Elon Musk actually announced that in 2022, there won't be any new models.
Okay.
Right, there's any new models. So in other words, whatever models that they have already released is already released. So they're going to focus on building the factories, the mega factories, delivery the cars that has already been backlogged, solving the chip shortage issues. So all these things are already made known to the market. Market is already factored that in. So market was actually expecting Elon Musk to go up there and announce new model. So, but Elon said, no, we are not going to do, and therefore there was a big decrease, right? So that is basically how, if you want to logic things out, that's the only logic, right? But again, Mr. Market don't, if you want to explain why, there's always something to explain, right? But of course, let's don't deny the fact that the macro environment itself is not good, right? So even Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon, all these big boys, the share price has sort of like tumbled, 3 to 5% drop, quite drastically despite of good results. So I think the last part of today's session is that, so what are we going to do during these sessions? I think the whole point here is this. If you are long-term investors, let me put it this way. A lot of tech companies previously have been chased up and up and up, to a very, very high, valuations, a PE of more than 500 times, 600 times, that sort of things. Yeah. So now the PE has actually come down to in the region of about 100 to 200. Now, for those people who talk about convictions previously, this is the time that you should show your convictions. Okay. Right? You should go up there. So you should go up there and say, hey, you know what? If I'm chasing at PE 500 times, why am I not buying at PE 200 times or PE 100 times, right? So for those stocks that you have convicted, I feel that this is the time to show your convictions and continue to believe the growth story. If you want to protect your risk, you should go and buy in badges like I always preach, buy in the DCA, buy on a regular basis, and that's how you basically, and that applies, this same theory applies to cryptocurrency as well, right? Then of course, if you say that, hey, you know what, if the macro environment is so bad, should I wait? Should I time the market? Well, you can. I'm not saying you can't. I mean, looking at how the market will go, it will still go sideways. But then again, you may miss out a big window of buying your favorite stock inexpensive, right? So, so with that, I hope that I give you directions on what to do. The market corrections itself is, in my opinion, is always temporary. If you have a 3 to 5 years view, I'm sure that now is basically a good time to take some positions, right? All right, that's all my personal take.
Thank you, Jimmy. Wow. Okay, short and sweet, very comprehensive. Now, I just want to ask one question before I let you go. Of course, I think you're very clear. You already say what you will be doing. I know you put it in a very, it's a very clear message. Put it in a very nice manner. Okay, but I totally agree with you. Now, one big question mark is the conflict between Russia, Ukraine, and US,
NATO.
of course, NATO. And this is definitely not the first time, it has happened before. And of course, if history is a guide, after a while, it's sort of a simmer off. Okay, so I just want to get your opinion. Of course, nobody knows what's going to happen. Do you think history will repeat itself, or this is going to be something different?
This is going to be history repeat by itself. So we know the historical relationship between Ukraine and Russia, right?
Yes.
And of course, Putin has made it very strong this time that they are determined to, to have control over Ukraine.
Okay.
Now, trying to tie this event with the stock market, if I will go back to Afghanistan and the other war is what they called it, the two war that have been recently, Afghanistan and one of the other wars.
Okay.
And sort of like mirror it with the stock market changes. You can see that every time when there is a war, the stock market tends to be a little bit volatile.
Okay. Okay.
But compared to other black swan event like the '08 subprime crisis and the 2020 COVID issues, right?
Okay.
War event has actually less impact on the stock market compared to black swan event.
Okay.
So as I said, I would expect the market to be a little bit volatile during this period of time. Even if the war will have broke out and NATO and things is going to go in, I personally foresee that if even there's a real conflict going in, this war is going to be very short and sharp.
Okay.
Because nobody will like a long war at this point in time. No. Yeah. So especially at the time when Russia is trying to rebuild their economy, similar to US. US, don't forget, they just pull up from Afghanistan. So they don't want to get involved in another war for sure.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So that's my personal take on that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Great. My thoughts are exactly the same. And of course, yes, I think we have been reading the same history book. Great. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Hopefully, we give you some guidance, overview, or at least opinion of what we think is going to happen. And I think if you didn't listen to Jimmy carefully, just go and replay the video. I think he already said something very clear. Okay, and I totally agree. Okay, so with that, I think that's all we have for today. So if you think that what have we done is meaningful, click on like, click on share, give us a motivation to keep doing this to you. Okay. Happy New Year, 恭喜发财, and see you again very soon. Okay, bye everybody.
恭喜发财，拜拜。
Bye.